Hello everyone, author DL Tillery here, the Mistress of Horror, and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, how about you press that subscribe button, give this video a like, and ring that bell so you know when I'm uploading new videos. And today is the first Sunday of March. I decided to do a February wrap up of what I read since I was reading a good amount in February instead of doing as much writing because I was participating in the Gothic Hearts Reading Challenge. So all these books that I'm going to talk about are Gothic romance, which was the book genre that we had to read in the challenge. Let's jump into these books. First off, I'm not going to talk in detail about each book because we are going to be on a live to talk about the books that we read in each category. I'm going to just kind of re-talk about the challenge that I was in, and then the categories that I read each book in, and then my feelings on each book in a light sense. First up was Music of the Night. I did not read the books in the order of that the categories was given to us for the reading challenge because I didn't think it mattered which order I read in. So the Music of the Night was from the BIPOC Gothic romance category that we were to read from. So as you can see, the main character is of color, so hence the BIPOC label for picking the book out. Angela J. Ford is the author, and I really did enjoy this book. I did leave a review, and I gave it 5 stars because I did immensely enjoy it. It is Gothic romance, but of course it has fantasy in this one particularly, which I liked because I really do like fantasy elements and supernatural elements in most of my books if I could get it. So it still fell under the Gothic romance genre because of the premise of the story and some of the elements that's within the story, making it Gothic romance nonetheless. Again, I really enjoyed this one. It's kind of like a Phantom of the Opera meets Beauty and the Beast mixture, and I thought it was done well. It is spicy too, so there is sex in it. So if you don't like that type of thing, then this obviously wouldn't be the book for you. But a lot of Gothic romance stories definitely have that in it, in mature context of sexual content, I've noticed. So especially the modern ones, of course. So yeah, that's a thing. I again enjoyed it, and it was an easy read. It wasn't difficult as far as I was concerned. It had somewhat of a slow start, if I recall right, but it did take off enough to keep you interested, or keep me interested in this case. The second book that I read was by M. Cato, Castle of Bones, and that one was in the category for the LGBTQ plus main character category. So that was the book I picked. It was based in Japan, and it's like the main character comes across like this magical castle that appears and disappears, and he falls in love with the other male lead that's trapped inside the castle. So it was really good. I actually liked that one and enjoyed it. Gothic elements wise, I guess it wasn't heavy, but of course it had the castle, the running away from said castle. They always got to have that in there to be fallen Gothic. It had the romance element, and then the dark side of that being the Gothic setting. So yes, that was good as well. So I recommend that one along with Music of the Night. They both were very good, and books I haven't read and authors I have never read from. So it actually was pretty good to get in this challenge because I actually came across some writers and authors that I've never heard of. So that's always a plus. Book number 3 that I read in February is my favorite one so far, and that one was Nightshade by Kira Lake. I really enjoyed that one. Actually, it is a duology. There is a second book. I have both of them. I haven't had a chance to read the second book yet, but I am going to read it because I am really interested in what happens after the first book. This one was obviously also a Gothic romance, as I said all these will be, and it was well executed. I actually had never read anything by this author either, and I was pleasantly surprised. It started off a little slow, but some books do. Around page 100 is when it really, really took off, but it also held my attention that entire time. But it was like, took off for me really there around on page 100 and something. And it's a 666 page book, the three. But it was long. So that being said, to take off around page 100 and something, it really isn't too surprising with the book that's that long. I really did enjoy it. If I told you anything about it, it would be that there's a female lead and the male lead, and then the female lead is human, and then the male lead is not human. There's angels, there's Nephilim, there's Cambion, there's all like angel mixed with human, human with demon, demon with angel, different tons, and one's called the Sentinels. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. I did do a review of it, a non-spoiler review on my channel here, on my Mistress Moods and Candlelight show. Also, I'm going to talk about it more and what I liked about it in the live that we're going to be doing with Regina St. Clair over at the Haunted Library about the middle of this month, which I'll let you know the date of that live stream in my community post, so look for that. It was really good. It's like one of my favorites. Like, I was really into it. Like, I went through at least easily 368 pages in one day. Even with my busy schedule, because it kept my attention that much. It was really good. It's my favorite one out of the 5 books that I need to read. And actually, I read a second book by Kira Lake, which is the next book that I read. Book 4 that I read in the month is called Master of Salt and Bones. Another one by Kira Lake. Also really liked this one. This one was more modern. Not as supernatural as this one. The female lead in this one is like a girl who is 18. It's a big age gap in this one. The other one has an age gap too. The other one by Kara Lake, which I don't mind age gaps at all. That doesn't bother me. But this one's age gap is a little bit more controversial for people because the female lead is freshly, out of school. Like, I think she's like, I don't know if she can go to college or not, but she's like 18, and the male lead is not 18. He is like 32 maybe. So a lot of people are like, oh, the age difference. I'm like, it happens. It does happen in real life, and it's not always a malicious setup. It's not always somebody seeking out an 18-year-old. It's not always like that. And in this book, it wasn't set up like that. He was a really rich guy. He owned a castle in a small town that she's from, and she has like not a good relationship with her mother, who's on drugs, and she's raised by her aunt from teen years on up. So yeah, they meet because she ended up working at his castle, manor, whatever you want to call it. And he definitely pushes her away at first. Like, it's like, no, and he has a lot of issues. He's scarred up on one side, partially his face, because, and this story, like, I think Kara likes to write about guys who have some kind of facial scar or something. I think she likes that because even in the other book, Nightshade, it was also like, I believe he had one eye was afflicted, and then this one he has heavy scarring on the face because of an accident he was in. So it seems to be like one of her things that she writes about. Maybe she likes that. The males are still quite handsome, the females are pretty, the usual thing. It's a romance, so it's not too surprising. But yeah, I really like this one as well. So this was a standalone, though. The other one was a duology. And so I'm really interested in more of her work. She has a lot of stuff out. She is a best-selling author, so she's not like, oh, new or something and people don't know about her type of situation. But she does have a lot of work. And I do like supernatural stuff in that setting. But this one wasn't supernatural at all, which usually I go after supernatural and fantasy. But this one was good, too. He even drove a Bugatti. And it's a very mafia style setting with this one. It is heavy in the sex. Both of these books are. Both Nightshade and Master of Salt and Bones. Like, both of these are heavy sexually based. When it gets to that in the book, then it continues to happen. So she's not shy with that at all. I noticed that with the Gothic romances again, that is a thing, which I'm fine with. But yeah, so I really liked both of those. This one was a heavier page as well, as far as page count. This one was 548 pages or 538 pages or something like that. And the funny thing about doing the challenge is I DNF'd the book. I don't DNF books. Usually once I'm reading a book, once I'm in, I finish it, even if it's not that great for me. But I was supposed to read this category that... The category, I don't know if I even mentioned the category that Nightshade was in. The category for Nightshade was the 2000 and up category. You had to read a Gothic romance that was printed 2000 and up, so published 2000 and up. So that was Nightshade. And then the category that ended up being for Master of Salt and Bones was supposed to be a woman running away from a castle type setting, Gothic romance, a mass market size, more or less. This one does come in that size, so that's why I was able to pick it. It did not have a female running from the castle on the cover, but it is in the book. So I kind of took it in that setting that it's in the book. So long as it's in the premise of the story, then it still should be fine. But I was kind of last minute, so I really had to switch up because I DNF'd the Always in August by Anne Head. I just couldn't do it. Like, and that doesn't happen to me too often. That book was from the 60s. But some of the words that's used in books that are older are going to be kind of trigger based for some people. And I really don't like the racist words that they'll use in books from between the 40s and even before, obviously, 40s and 60s. And I use those years specifically because the last book on my list is from the 40s. So, but this writer's writing style for the one I DNF'd, the Always in August, I just couldn't get with it. It was boring. She used a lot of description, overly so, that had nothing to do with stuff that was being described for the plot. So it kind of got really annoying, off track, as far as I was concerned. And believe me, it wasn't that long of a book. It was only 225 pages, but I only made it to page 20, between 22 and 25. And that was like pulling teeth. Like, it was hard to get through that because every page she was given heavy description of things that to me was irrelevant, or that she would bring up a plot point and then not lead from it and then start talking about something else. Maybe it was based around that, but I don't know. It's got so boring that I was like, I can't do this. Like, I tried for multiple days, and I was just running low on time that I put aside for reading because my schedule was so busy for this challenge. And I'm like, yeah, this is not working. So that's when I had to look for some writer that I knew I liked their book already. So I looked up Kira Lake, some of her other things, and that book was still Gothic romance. That's what she writes. And that category wasn't year specific, so I just went ahead and went, okay, it's mass market printed at some point with that one, so I picked that one, and there we go. So in the Master of Salt and Bone, she does run away from the castle. Heck, the male lead runs away from his own place at one point. So it's kind of like, it fit the motif and that. So I really enjoyed it. I read it in no time because I just like her writing. It worked out. The last book 5, is the category a Gothic romance that was published before 1950. So I looked around. It wasn't the easiest thing to find, I guess, that I would want to read. And I found one that was, I think it's published in 1944 for this one. And this one is called Castle in the Swamp. The story premise from the blurb sounded interesting enough. It's supposed to be like two people in love, and then the master of the whatever manor, whatever, doesn't want them to be together or whatever, from what I gather from the story before I read it. And it's not bad. I would give it probably like a 3-star, 3.5 or something like that. It's a hard read because of the time setting. The story itself is based in like 1850 something, 1860 something, which is going to be a hard read anyway because it's in America and it's right off of slavery, a lot of stuff, and then segregation in it. So a lot of the words that are used in the writing, even though the book was written in the 40s, of course, the guy is a male who wrote it, Edison, as you can see his name on the cover. I think it's Edison Marshall. I don't have my notes or anything with that, so I think it's Edison Marshall or something like that. But you can see on the cover clearly. But like his word choices, of course, I'm not surprised, and it is the 40s, and he's using, like, you know, to give a description to someone of color. Yes, he did use black, which is, I guess that's fine, obviously. But then he went into like using it in, you know, Negro and stuff, and I'm like, It's about a young boy. Starts off, he's an orphan, and then it goes on through his age just a little bit, really quickly actually, and then the guy who adopts him is revenge and stuff. It's a whole bunch of the story. The story was interesting enough to I could read it, but the racial words, the terms were very rough to read through. So I managed to make it, but it wasn't the easiest thing because of that. The writing was decent, though a little old style, which is to be expected, is from the 40s. Some of the situation with the two younger people that's in love who, like, later they end up, like, you know, but when they're younger and it's like 11 and 13 and they're like kissing, I'm like, because it gets a little, you know, a little too kissy, like for kids, because I'm kind of like, I don't really want to read about kids making out. But I'm not a kid, and also I'm an adult and I have a kid, and I'm like, how, like, kids making out to me is kind of like, we don't need to. This is not a children's book. This is like not teenagers book. This is like an adult book. Like, why we need to have that in an adult book? Like, you could just keep it pretty basic term, but whatever, that's a whole nother conversation. It's also the 40s, so kids being 11 and 13, they be off, you know, living on their own. They be doing all kinds of other things that, you know, we just kind of frown upon a little bit now for kids, you know, and that's well into, like, certain generations was doing that kind of stuff, or allowing kids to go off doing a lot of stuff by themselves at such a young age. But again, I expected that, but like the terms and stuff is a little rough to read through when you're a person of color or whatever. It doesn't matter which race, but when you're reading through that and they're using certain words that you know is not a thing that we do anymore, it's a little hard to be okay with it, even though you know it was going to be there. You know what I mean? So anyway, I read it. It was decent. Like I said, I give it probably 3.5 stars. For the story was fine. But yeah, so that was the 5 books I read in February. That's my wrap up. I did finish all of them. We'll be doing a live video over on Ragina St. Clair's channel, middle of the month. Again, I'll talk about that in a community post once I have all the information from her. But I'm a co-host for the challenge along with E.D. Lewis and Aphrodite Lee. If you watched my original video when I announced that I was doing the Gothic Hearts reading challenge, I did mention, like, we each had to make a cover. I made my cover, here it is, and then E.D. Lewis had his cover, and then Aphrodite Lee had her cover. She did a few. And then Ragina St. Clair, of course, had her cover. So they each did their own cover. I did my cover. It was kind of like a cool little task for us to do. And yeah, so I'm co-hosting with them, and Regina is the host of the reading challenge. So I can't wait to do the video so I can talk more about what I feel about each book and what I enjoyed and didn't enjoy. I did leave reviews for all the books except for, like, the really old one. I haven't put one up for that one yet, which I'll probably put on Goodreads. I really don't know if it's on Amazon because it is super old now, you know. They don't, unless someone put it up there for that. I really don't even know if it's on there. So I had to physically hunt this book down and buy a physical book for this one, which I prefer physical. But I do buy ebooks easily too. But so that one, I think you'll have to, when I put a review up, it'll probably be on Goodreads. I don't know if I'll be able to put one up on Amazon, as it has to be on Amazon in order to do that, so I'm not sure. But I did also have to watch a film, and I ended up watching Vampire Doll. which is a Japanese film, 1970 when it came out. I enjoyed that because, as you know, I was going to watch Crimson Peak again, which I saw it back when it came out, and I love Tom Hiddleston, but I don't really like Crimson Peak. So I end up like, let me pick something that I might like or something I haven't seen. So I kind of just was like, let me not look at that again. So let me find something else. Vampire Doll was actually pretty good. Obviously, the name gives away what it is, vampire, but how she's the female in the story, that the vampire, how she becomes a vampire is interesting. And it follows the story of her fiance at first, where he's looking for her. He comes to her home and they say she's dead. So he's sad, of course, and he's like, but he's convinced he sees her. And then it kind of leaves that part and goes to his sister and her friend looking for him because he disappears. So that's the premise of the story. And then it turned out really good. I liked it. So it's a Gothic romance, which is really hard to find a Gothic romance in a Japanese film or a Chinese film or a Korean film. It's hard to find that genre specifically because I only watch dramas from Korea and China and Japan, and film mostly movies and stuff from those regions. I don't watch Western TV anymore. Like, that's been like 3 or 4 years since I stopped. So I was like, I really don't feel like watching any Western TV. That's why I was like, I don't really feel like watching Crimson Peak. So anyway, but I did manage to find that one. It's good. I watched it on Amazon on Prime. I didn't have to like super search and find special websites and stuff. So that was good. Anyway, that's what I watched. That's what I read. I did finish all these books. It was a good read. I hadn't read that much in a while, in a month. So that was a good catch-up time. Now it's back to writing. So anyway, that was my February wrap-up, all about the reading. And I will see you in the next one. Stay scared.